Live. Good morning to everybody, and we are live. Today, we're only broadcasting on our social media today due to a few technical glitches, but thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Behind the Markets. It is Mindset Monday, and today we're going to be discussing two streams of thought on Mindset Monday today. One is toughening up, learning to make the best out of the worst, or what I call the skills of turning negatives to positive, negating the negatives. And we'll be continuing on our Power to Change series, where we will be talking about habit building, habit constructions, constructing the right habits, and how that plays out. Usually, that's a very difficult thing, and I'm going to be ending that off with a conversation about financial habit building. But if you are following us today, please give us a shout. Where are you joining us from? What's your name? And we are so glad to have you here. I will be joined later on by Stephanie. Possibly we'll be joined later on by Stephanie to talk about our conversation regarding habit construction when she does actually join in. But once again, I would like to say thank you once again for joining us today. So the first thing on Mindset Monday, remember that we do have Mindset Mondays because this is a period where we talk about how to get our minds correct for the rest of the week, how to get ourselves functioning and operational for the rest of the challenges ahead, and not to get bogged down in what is coming up today and want to play a bit of offense with the week rather than playing defense. So Monday is a very tough period for everybody. Like I said, give us a shout, share it with share it whoever you think needs to. But this is where we kind of tone down on the numbers, and then we come back to the whole time of opening the markets with in-depth and numbers another time. So let's get down to what we are doing today. Today I want to start by picking up on a viral video that happened of Coco Gruff during her victory speech, and I think everyone has heard this one. She really had a moment. I like one of the first moments I liked in her speech was when she actually gave honor to God, and I talked about this in terms of what it effectively means to give glory to God. But I like this part. I think, like I said, everyone else has, where she thanked her haters. And I want to talk about this whole concept of negating the negatives into positives. But just remember, I'm going to pull this out. This is the clip from her victory speech after winning the U.S. Open. 19-year-old Coco Gauff.
Um, Honestly, thank you to the people who didn't believe in me. I mean, like a month ago, I won a 500 title, and people said I would stop at that. 2 weeks ago, I won a 1,000 title, and people were saying that was the biggest it was going to get. So 3 weeks later, I'm here with this trophy right now. I tried my best to carry this with grace, and I've been doing my best. So honestly, to those who thought who were putting water on my fire, you're really adding gas to it. And now I'm really burning so bright right now.
So that was an interesting moment. I don't know how many of you watched it. It came on all of our screens. Sunday morning, this is one of the things we're all picking up. And that was an interesting turn to a conversation where she was thanking everybody. And last but not least, she thanked her haters for giving her the drive to succeed. Now, this is kind of an important kind of mindset because this is the level of what we call anti-fragility. This is early on. We talked about various growth mindsets, and one of the growth mindsets we talked about is being able to thrive in negative circumstances, being able to actually build during tough circumstances. Like your immune system actually gets stronger the more it's exposed, obviously not to a deadly point, but when it's exposed to illness, because what doesn't kill you eventually makes you stronger. So that's something that you want to try and pick into, which I think was quite interesting. A lot of us get distraught by people who have said negative things to us and have done negative things to us and have told us that we won't amount to anything, or have basically insulted all of our efforts. You say you want to get out of debt, people laugh at you. You say you want to try and build wealth, people laugh at you. You say you want to start your business, people laugh at you. People laugh you off. They tell you to go and do other simple things. You just go and get this, or you and just do that. Forget about that. Those dreams are for people who are from different countries. Not in Z. People have laughed that off. But you see, some of the things that I've seen a lot of the people who become strong in their areas do is that they don't just brush that off. Okay, they don't brush off the negatives that people have said to them. They've actually accepted the pain. They've said, let me take it in and let it hurt. And let me let that pain drive me. See, one of the things people don't understand is that anger, that pain and anger are premium fuel. I always say this: your brain is like the steering wheel and the navigation system of a car. Your heart and the pain it goes through, that is the fuel. Your heart fuels your journey. So a lot of us make the mistake of trying to fuel our journey with our minds. We try and psych ourselves into doing things, and then we try and guide our decisions with our heart. How we feel determines what we do. It's actually meant to be the other way around. Drive your decisions with your head. So use basically some sort of analytic thinking to drive a direction, and then you push yourself using your heart. So, what is it in your heart that drives you to work that extra hour, to train that extra hour, to study that bit harder, to never let it go? Is when you start replaying the things that people have said about you, the people you can't trust, the things that people have tried to take from you. When you start replaying that in your mind, but the trick is not to lash back at those people or to lash out at innocent people, but to take that perpetual force and energy and to put it into the constructive direction of your life. To take everybody who told you you won't amount to anything and put that energy into studying that bit harder, coding that bit harder, working that bit harder. That putting the intense level of focus. There's something to being angry that people do not really understand. That when a person is angry, I remember one time we were in college, and it's an old story, but yeah, I think we can all get past it now. There's a time we all went out as a group of guys, and these two guys start fighting. There was a fight that broke out. These two guys start fighting. And I remember the comment the other guy, they were trying to calm this other guy down. He was Tosa, I think, as I remember. They were trying to calm this guy down. And he said the words, I can't hear anything, my blood is running. That's how that was. He was trying to use direct translation. But he shouted out, I can't hear anything, my blood is running. That's how he shouted. We all laughed. But later on, I came to think about it, that is the power that anger has in you. Okay? That when something touches a nerve, you can't hear anything. You can't see anything else but that thing that has touched your nerve. And if you can kind of just redirect the focus to either training harder for sport or training harder for your fitness or pushing it to yourself, if you can redirect every rejection letter you've ever gotten, every person who has said your ideas stink, every person who says you just need to quit and give up, if you can, instead of lashing back at them and lashing out at innocent people, channeling that into it. So she took that moment where everybody told her, you won't amount to squat, you won't do anything. She could have just gone back on social media and said, all you people, you ain't nothing, I'm this, who are you? And argued back with them and exhausted that energy on silly arguments. But no, she took that energy back onto the tennis court, where now she's a champion. And that's the important thing. So the difference, I think, and when it comes to whether it's your financial goals, your business goals, your work goals, whatever it is, the champion has the ability to take the pain that is thrown at them, the most painful experiences, and channel that into the positives that they want to achieve. And that's the thing. So I'm going to ask everybody a simple question. I'm going to throw it out in the comment section. Have you learned the art, and have you learned the art of channeling and harnessing the premium fuel that is your energy? I want to see in the comment section if anybody has it here. Anybody can actually attest to that. Have you learned the art of channeling the premium fuel that is pain and anger? Okay? Because like I said, that is premium fuel. People who are angry work extra hours. People who are upset work extra hours. And people who don't, whenever they're people who are driven in ways you can't imagine, where you ask the question, but what keeps this person up at 2 a.m. doing their work? There's usually some sort of pain and anger that drives it. So once again, I want to just quickly play that clip again so that we can all remember what those words are. I want to ask you that simple question in the comment section. Have you channeled it before I switch into our main topic today?
Me, I mean, like a month ago, I won a 500 title, and people said I would stop at that. 2 weeks ago, I won a 1,000 title, and people were saying that was the biggest it was going to get. So 3 weeks later, I'm here with this trophy right now. I've tried my best to carry this with grace, and I've been doing my best. So honestly, to those who thought who were putting water on my fire, you're really adding gas to it. And now I'm really burning so bright right now.
There we go. And a lot of it comes from, so I'm going to just put the question up again. Have you learned the art of channeling the premium fuel that is pain and anger to achieving your goals and ambitions? Now, part of it also comes from, there's a book by, and this was actually a lecture which I picked this up from, but apparently it comes from a book by Amy Morin called 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. It's on my reading list for this year. And this is basically what it's meant to bring down. What kind of mindset do mentally strong people have? And I just want to share what this clip, what the summary of it is, or what the 13 things mentally strong people don't do. She actually did have a lecture about this. She went through these. Now, if you look at it this way, it's feeling that the world owes you one. Okay, when you don't feel like the world owes you one, you don't wake up in the morning thinking the people of this world owe me something. The people in this world care about my pain. They care about what I'm going through. When you understand that people actually operate in self-interest, you tend to understand that it's pretty much in human nature to operate against what you're looking for, to operate against what you think is important. So you pretty much accept humanity for what it is. They don't feel sorry for themselves whenever people get after them. They're not out there looking for sympathy. They're not out there even trying to look for revenge. The best revenge is not even trying to get people back. The best revenge is getting up and moving forward. That is the best kind of revenge. Okay, and resenting other people's success. You don't do that as well. You're not driven to try and resent other people's success. But I will tell you that mindset of not feeling like the world owes you one and taking responsibility to do the things that count in your life, that's what can drive you to be able to access and tap into that anger. Now, I'm just going to add one other thing. Patrick Bet-David once said, he said, in life, you can have a competitor. He said, a competitor is somebody you can play against. And what I love about that speech, I'm going to take it again, is that Patrick Bet-David says, when he was talking about the 12 building blocks of a business plan, a good business plan, he said, it's good and well to have a competitor. He said, but you need to have an enemy. There must be an enemy inside your battle. He says a competitor is somebody who you're just facing, okay? And you really have the energy to fight them whenever you're facing them. But an enemy is somebody you wake up wanting to destroy, okay? Or something. And it shouldn't even be someone. You know, the Bible even says you don't even wrestle with flesh and blood. You wrestle with principalities, rulers of darkness. But it's these abstracts. What is the thing that you are fighting against? She didn't go onto that tennis court to beat her opponent. She went onto that tennis court to beat the view that she wasn't deserving of it, that she couldn't make it. That's what she was playing against. She wasn't playing against an opponent on the other side. That was just somebody she was going through it. But I'm telling you, what she was channeling was every negative comment that said, this is the best it's going to get for you. You are a one-hit wonder. You ain't going to make it. You ain't nothing. It's those comments that drove her to say, I'm playing this game against those. So you need to start learning to say, what's my enemy? Okay? What is your enemy? And I know, look, the devil is all of our enemies, but in what shape or form has he taken in your life? Right? What is that enemy that is going to tell you that I'm going to play harder, that I'm going to come to work 30 minutes earlier, I'm going to leave an hour, 30 minutes to an hour later, and in the middle of this time when I come and I leave, I'm going to focus dead eye, okay? I'm not going to get involved in the water cooler conversations and all these things, and I'm going to go straight into everything, and I'm going to knock everything out, okay? when it's time for you to study to enhance yourself and to get your next qualifications, what is the voice in your head playing that is psyching you? And it's usually pain. I'm telling you this right now. People are driven by their pains, their rejections, their downfalls. So that's something that we should actually try and tap into. And I know it may seem harsh, but I know it works for a lot of us. Okay, knowing whether you've gone through a disappointment, whether you've gone through a pain, whether you've gone through a loss, those things will drive you to say never again. No way is that thing going to be true. And then the things that are opposing you will wonder what force, or people who are watching you wonder what force are you playing with. And it's simply because you tapped into something where someone hurt you. Don't bury that pain. I'm telling you, that stuff is premium. Use that stuff. Okay. Now, don't let it direct your decisions. That's where the mistake gets made. Don't let it be the object of your work. Let it be the fuel behind your work. So in other words, don't fight back against that person. Let that painful situation, let it now touch you somewhere strong that you decide that this is not gonna win. This is not gonna defeat me. So Margaret Frew has joined us from LinkedIn and said, yes, that's what I'm currently doing. I've decided to use the pain as fuel to drive me to reaching and smashing my goals. Exactly. And I've seen this, by the way, even when getting out of debt, people, that's the main structure. Okay. People tell you, when you get down to the pits of your debt, you're told you're a failure. People look at you and say, but you're irresponsible. I'm telling you, the best way to turn your life around financially is not to try and shrug off those voices. Capture them. Put them in the bottle. No energy drink is stronger than remembering all the things people called you when you went bankrupt. Okay? No energy drink, no strategy, no motivational speech is stronger than remembering the names people called you, remembering the things people said about you when it was time for you, when you went into your worst financial state. And whenever you're paying off your debt, or you're raising money, or you're working extra hours to do that, just keep remembering all the things that people said about you when you were saying that, all those embarrassing, keep remembering that feeling of embarrassment, that hard, painful feeling, that depression you went through. Like, you have to use that stuff, because that's how you get out of those situations, those holes we find ourselves in life. You get out of them by remembering the pain. It makes you, and even when you think about going into debt again or borrowing again, remember that pain. Eddie Griffin once said his mother saved him from drugs, because he would remember his mother whipping him as a child. And he said pain was a wonderful reminder, because whenever his friends were like, yo, man, let's go sell drugs, he just looked at his wrist and like, I ain't going down like that. So pain can be, if used correctly. What you have to avoid is being controlled by your pain, but you can channel it correctly. And like I said, there's an opportunity, there's an example I can give you, like when people are trying to pay off their debt or get out of debt, or they're trying to work themselves into a better financial situation. That disappointment you've had with yourself, if you channel it to anger and action, you will work with an extra force you've never seen before. So I just wanted to put that down. So that was one of the strongest champion mentalities I've seen, is being able to take everything negative that's thrown at you, harness it, and convert it into power. So it's not about whether you can absorb it, store it somewhere, and brush it off. That's called being resilient. But being anti-fragile is every time someone throws something at you, it's actually even making you stronger. Every negative that's thrown at you actually even makes you stronger. Okay? Every time you are attacked, you're getting stronger. So every enemy that's out to get you is making you even stronger. So every negative word, negative situation, downtrodden, that stuff, it's actually making you much more powerful. And that's called being anti-fragile. All right. So that's been the first conversation point of something I just thought I would touch on today. And the reason I was talking about it today, because I want to talk about habit formation in our Power to Change series that we've been going through, Pastor Craig Groeschel's book, Building Good Habits. And this is the question, because usually when people are trying to build good habits and get rid of bad habits, okay, because usually we are the reflection of our habits. There's an old saying that says, when you're young, when you're born, you look like your parents. When you die, you look like your habits. So the reality is, we've been talking about various things, but the main thing is habit formation. Now, there has to be some energy behind the execution of whatever good habits you want to continue doing, and the power to resist the bad habits that got you into that place in the first place. So let's talk about the formation of habits, how they work. There's a science behind it, then there's an emotion behind it that drives it. So the recap we have is we wanted to remember that everybody wakes up at the beginning of the year with the desire to change. Very few people apply the power to change. Desire is longing, wishing, hoping, and expressing to have something change in your life, while the power is the ability and capacity to affect and influence the change or desired outcome. So we've been talking about the four various mindsets of change, and one is identity, not behavior, training and not trying, and now we're in habits and not hope. That you have to have the habits for change and not to hope for change. So today we're talking about starting good habits and stopping bad ones. And that's what we're building on today. And we're talking about building good habits. So the first thing you find, this is part of the chapter in the book, is that your habits are actually one of the biggest part of your life. So about 40% of every action you execute in a day is a result of automated habits that you do. So your autopilot. Okay, whenever you just do things almost without thinking, you just drift into doing them. Which hand do you brush your teeth with? What direction do you brush your teeth? When you're bathing, how do you actually wash yourself? What's your rhythm? What's your method? There's habits that you've picked up that you won't even realize. And 40% of your day actually consists not of decisions, but of automated habits. Now, the reason why this is important is because the most progress in your life is going to be made by what you do consistently. Now, you'd think the 60% of your day, that is your decisions, will make up your outcomes of your life. Actually, it's the 40% that's habits. And the reason is this. Human beings are we have lots of variables when it comes to decisions. So the decisions you make, okay, are really always going to be a toss of the coin. One day you make this decision, the other day you make a different one. But the habits you engage in are often the same, okay? So progress is often a factor of the things, not the things you do the most only, but the things you do the most consistently. It's the things that you're doing consistently. So that's why that 40% of habits is extremely important. Now, our habits are where we make the most progress because they're the most consistent than our choices and decisions. And finally, our habits are usually the result of powerful sensual triggers, mainly things we see. Okay, mainly something we see or a temperature we feel, but really it's mainly something we see, but something that our senses, our sight, our smell, our taste, our feeling, something that we see, our hearing, something that we see generally drives it generally becomes the trigger to our habits. So James Clear has it in Atomic Habits, and also in this book they write it down that you have a cue, which is a trigger, and it's often a sensual one or mainly visual. A craving, which is now a thought, which is your thoughts go into a physical, mental, or emotional need. So usually there's a cue that triggers thinking about a need. Okay, then your response is the behavior that's exhibited, and then the reward is the benefit. So trigger, thought, behavior, benefit. That's kind of the cycle that you get. And every benefit, now here's the funny thing, the more pleasurable the benefit, the more you want to engage in that. So the more your brain works in a way that strong emotions paint a picture in your memory, and they almost enshrine or ingrain something into your memory. So pleasure often is dictated by how strong the emotion is generated. And the more emotionally delightful something is, the more that loop of activities gets ingrained into your mind. So also putting a reward at the end of your habits is actually quite important. Some sort of a reward, not a reward that negates the habit. This is often what we do. We often put rewards that negate our good habits, but a reward that is something that will either support, but something that you enjoy as well. So each time you complete a habit loop, the deeper it gets enshrined into who you are. So sometimes doing the right thing is just about doing it over and over and over and over again until it becomes who you are. And there's a neurochemistry behind all of this. Now, the question I want to do, and I've written here trigonometry, is to know what are the triggers that we should actually be facing, that we generally face. So if you're trying to look at what is it that will push your habits, perhaps you want to try and think about what are the triggers, because triggers are the most important thing. Because either you want to engineer triggers for good habits, or remove and block and barricade triggers for bad habits. Okay, so that's what you want to do. You want to play around with your trigonometry. Your trigonometry involves a place. Okay, is there a specific place where a good or a bad habit happens? And I want to ask you a question. Out of the 5 triggers here, okay, out of the 5 triggers here, and I want to ask this in the comment section. Out of the 5 triggers that are mentioned below, which one is the strongest for you? So which one out of the 5 triggers mentioned here in the picture, out of the 5 triggers, which one is the strongest for you? You'll see it in the comments section. Yes, I'm writing it right now. I'm writing it right now for you. So which one is the strongest for you? Right. Sorry, just wanted to put that there. Out of the 5 triggers. So if you're in the comments, please write that down. Share with us right now in the comments which one is the strongest for you. Now, if you take a look carefully at these ones, place. So sometimes there's a place you go that triggers a specific feeling, that triggers an emotion, and it triggers something. So maybe good habits are best done, like exercise, maybe it's best done in the gym. So you have to go to a specific place to get yourself thinking about that habit. So you trigger it by physically going to a place. Or maybe there's a bad habit that happens when you go to a specific place. Maybe you're one of those people who, when you drink in your house, you're fine. But the moment you set foot in a club, you're back at 5 a.m. Those are issues, by the way. So maybe it's not just the act of drinking. By the way, we're not trying to support that behavior. But it's not just the act of indulging. Maybe it's the environment you're indulging in that triggers a wild behavior. So think about that very carefully. The second one is time. There's specific times of the year, times of the day, whatever it is that make you act in a specific way, okay, or that trigger certain thoughts. So you need to start. This is why journaling is very important. And also keeping track of your day is very important, because the more you write down, the more you become sensitive to what exactly is driving some of these behaviors. The other one is mood. There are 5 I've written here. There were 4 that Pastor Craig Rochelle pointed out, but I've added an extra one: bored, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. These are often very strong mood triggers, whether for things like overeating, drinking, all sorts of things. Whether someone is bored, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, which one of these mood triggers often follows or precedes a good or a bad habit? Moments. What are the moments in your life that trigger good or bad habits? And one of the strongest triggers in your trigonometry is people. Okay. By the way, even money triggers. If you're looking for your money triggers that make you spend recklessly, here they are, by the way. There's places that make you spend recklessly, times that make you spend recklessly, moods that make you spend recklessly, moments that make you spend recklessly, and definitely people that make you spend recklessly. And I want to focus on the people trigger. The wrong people give you the wrong habits. The right people give you the right habits. A weight study of 12,000 people over 32 years revealed that 57% of people, 57% more likely to be overweight if your friends are overweight. Because obviously you're all hanging out the same places, eating together, chomping on the same fast foods. And guess what's going to happen? Y'all going to be gaining weight together. It happened to us. It happened to some of us. If you lose weight, one out of every 3 of your friends will also lose weight. The book of Proverbs 13:20 says, if you are around the wise, you'll become the wise. The companion of fools will suffer greatly. So it basically says that the people you hang around can also be strong triggers. There's certain people who can trigger certain behaviors in you. So I wanted to ask again the question, out of the 5 triggers, and I'm going to go back to that slide, out of the 5 triggers, which one is the strongest for you? Is it place, time, mood, moments, or people? Just answer in the comment section. So creating habits is about creating a time and place triggers to trigger good habits, and removing time and place triggers for bad habits. So you have to put barriers between you and the bad habits. Maybe possibly one of the best ones, which we've discovered, is that whenever there's more than 7 steps between you and something, you are less likely to do it. But when there's less than 7 steps between you and something, you are more likely to do it. So you want to maybe reduce the number of steps of the good habits and increase the number of steps of the bad habits. Maybe start putting locks on certain things, or whatever it is you want to do. Find a way to put multiple steps between you and the good habits, and the bad habits, and remove as many steps between you and the bad habits. Automate the good habits. So 6 strategies to enhance your discipline. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about, going back to the earlier conversation, if you want to enact one of those your habits, you are gonna have to tap into something emotional that is going to drive you to it. So some pain somewhere, some disappointment, some hurt, that will drive you to execute these habits. And the more you execute it, the more it becomes who you are. So you've got to use your brain first to design and orchestrate the habits. Then you've got to play the voices in your head in case you wake up in the morning thinking, no, I don't want to do this. It'll happen. And we've all gone through these tough times where we don't do the things we're supposed to be doing. But trust me, you're going to want to play those voices that make you angry, because that is the way you get stuff done. Angry people, whether or not they're getting the right thing done, they get something done. Anger explodes, and it explodes with energy. So you just want to make sure that energy is harnessed and directed towards the right thing, and that's when you formed a good habit. So here are from Cal Newport's deep work, and I'm going back to this, 6 strategies to enhance your discipline. So remember that your willpower, what you're trying to do is you're trying to avoid using willpower, and you're trying to make these things automated. And that is selecting and committing to a philosophy or a higher power or principle, ritualizing the good habit, making a big financial or physical gesture, never working or walking alone, but doing this with someone else, executing like a business, and embracing periodic downtime. So let's go through all of this. Select and commit to a philosophy or a principle. Now, you need some principle, something that you believe that is integrated with the habit of change, not change for change's sake. If you're a Christian and you say, I want to lose weight because my body is a temple and I worship God with it. And if that's what you're saying, then you're going to really do this really hard. So it has to come from a higher consciousness or a higher philosophy or your religion that drives you. So choose a philosophy that fits your specific circumstance, as a mismatch can easily derail you. Now, here's why I say this. One of the things with philosophy is, like I always say, when you're talking about your money decisions, I talk about the 8 pillars of stewardship. So the 5 pillars of stewardship and the 8 mindsets of a good, godly financial steward. So if it's godly reasons that are driving, you're more likely to push. So if it's higher consciousness reason, your life philosophy, how does this habit link to your life philosophy? Okay, that drives you, your almost identity-driven life philosophy. So you have to find the philosophy and the principle that underlines it according to this change, and commit to it. So that's how you do it. Then ritualizing. Now, ritualizing means building a set of complex activities, complicated and perhaps to the outside world quite strange, rituals and activities. Now, when I say rituals, I don't mean demonic and satanic rituals, people. I'm just talking about a set of routine activities that you do around the change habit with strictness and idiosyncrasy. So in other words, whether it is that before you budget, I don't know if you want to hop on one leg before you do your nighttime budget and just recite yourself some budgeting principles, and then you go down and you do your budget check. Cool. If that's what works for you, then that's what works for you. But you have to create a ritual that means something to you. Okay. Rituals should minimize the friction in transitioning. So whenever you do a little ritual towards doing a positive habit, that will reduce the friction, and they avoid waiting for inspiration. If you're trying to wait for the inspiration to do something good, you'll be waiting until Jesus returns. Then he'll return, he'll pass, and you'll still be waiting for inspiration. You also want to experiment and be willing to try and work with different moves when it comes to this. And finally, provide your mind with structure that commits to slip into the change state. So this is what a ritual does, a change ritual, whatever it is that you need to do that does it. Maybe there's a song you need to play. Maybe there's, you want to play before you get to work, you play Ace Hood's Hustle. Okay, if that's what works, that's what works. But whatever psychs you into it, have a strict but personalized ritual that kind of gets you into that frame of mind. The ritual selection should also be based on location and duration. How long does the ritual take? Where do you need to do it? What rules and processes does it follow? Systemize support and structure to avoid willpower wasting, and also organizing the raw materials needed for it. So maybe if it's too resource intensive in your life, then you might want to try and avoid it. The third thing you want to try and do to make yourself more disciplined with this is make a large financial gesture. Okay, when you buy stuff around your habit, okay, and you make a large financial or time commitment to it, what ends up happening is you increase its priority. The Bible says, "Where your treasure is where your heart shall be." So the things you actually pay for are things you're actually worried about. By the way, that you tend to care for things that you've actually paid for. So leveraging radical change to the norm plus significant investment of effort or money will increase the perceived importance of the task or the habit that you're about to do. So this doesn't need to be permanent, but just a gesture that will push your deep goal to a level of mental priority that helps unlock the needed mental resources. Sometimes to change, you must first go big. J.K. Rowling was actually trying to write her final Harry Potter book, and she ended up going to a hotel where she was paying £1,000 a day for a room. And that payment kind of woke up to the fact that, okay, this is important, but that change of mentality. Now, it doesn't mean you have to do the exact same thing, because I doubt most of us have that kind of money. We don't have J.K. Rowling money, but we do have some resources that we can give towards something. So invest time, effort, or money into supporting this habit or doing something with it, because the more you spend on it, the more important it looks to you. Walking alone, there's something called the theory of serendipitous encounter, which means if you take a change journey or a new habit journey with other people who are like-minded, they will share their story with you. They'll talk about the things they've been through with that same habit. And all of a sudden, you start to get inspired. So diverse perspectives sometimes provide needed clarity to unlock inspiration. Periodically rotate between interaction and isolation. So between trying to do something and between trying to work with people. So sometimes, work with someone on problems. That's another thing that you can actually do. Another one is what we call executing like a boss. This is what we call the 4DX. You want to practice essentialism. What are the wildly important goals? What are the really, 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 really life or death important things? There's lots of things that we think are important, but they're not. They're just interesting and they've gotten our attention, but they're not as important. Discipline, in other words, discipline number 2 is act on lead measures. In other words, don't measure your habit by the outcomes. Measure your habits by how many times you do it. Measure success by doing it. So not lagging indicators, which are results, lead indicators, which are the actions executed. Keep a compelling scoreboard of your lead habits and even their outcomes as well. What are they yielding to? And finally, weekly check-ins with your team or your accountability partners on your scoreboards also helps you constantly get to your promised land. So that's one of the things we call executing like a boss. The benefits of this is execution is more difficult than strategy, so you really want to focus on it. Improving your regularity of your habits keeps your mind focused throughout and tends to produce more results. So 4DX execution is extremely important. And finally, embrace your downtime. It aids with insight and complexity by taking things from the unconscious from conscious to the unconscious. It enables unconscious to sort out complex problems, and also it helps recharge the batteries. So those are some of the comments that we've put out today from our today's Mindset Monday. We have had quite a number of conversational points, and I think we'll just leave that be today. In terms of Mindset Monday, we do have our main financial habits, and we'll talk about those tomorrow going forward. So I want to ask one more time to everybody who's still watching, out of the 5 main triggers, which are place, time, mood, sorry, let me just bring them back up to the screen rather than me saying them. But the 5 main triggers in your when you're trying to understand your personal trigonometry is a specific place, a specific time, a mood, moments, and people. So sometimes celebrating is what may make you do certain things that you may not like. With that, I would like thank you all for joining us today on Mindset Monday. Have a wonderful and blessed week. Catch you all tomorrow as we get into Finance Tuesday. And I think we were supposed to have Stephanie with us, but she will join us probably tomorrow. With that, have a wonderful day.